Welcome to another exciting day in the Haven. I am so geeked to be in the studio with my dear friend, Chris Haley. Chris is a well-respected speaker and advocate of African American history, self-empowerment, and genealogy. As director of both the study of the legacy of slavery in Maryland at the Maryland State Archives Research Department and the Utopia Film Festival in Greenbelt, Maryland, Chris has played a big role in pressing forward issues related to African and African American genealogy and the arts through literature and film. So, put your hands together and help me in welcoming my dearest friend, Chris Haley. I said that like 2-3 times.
I love that, and your check is in the mail.
Okay. Wonderful.
Unless
So
it's on
Chris,
Zelle.
actually, I take cash out.
Oh, you take cash out? Okay, that's good.
I ain't messing around with Zelle.
No, right.
I'm not giving Bank of America any reason.
Yeah, because I have it through CQ, I think, which is where my money goes for the CQ because I'm a state employee.
Oh,
of the state of Maryland.
Is it okay to broadcast that?
I think so.
I think it's okay.
Because now we've said it. Because I work at the Maryland State Archives.
We can't unsay it now.
Right, we can't.
We can't unring the bell.
Right.
So, anyway, Chris Haley.
Anita Ward. Ring my bell.
Was it Anita Ward?
It was somebody named Ward. It wasn't Burt Ward because he was in Batman.
Oh.
I only know that because of old TV shows.
Okay, so you guys have an idea of how this interview, right off the top, how this interview, but it's okay because he is my buddy.
Right, and I write.
And he writes. And so, you know, I mean, that whole thing about authors being a little verbose. Right. But today, we're talking about his book, Fists and Rainbows, which is a collection of poetry, very good poetry, I might add, very stimulating in many ways, and it just kind of captures a whole plethora of human emotion and action.
You said stimulating on TV. I'm like, girl.
Listen, you'll get it when you get it, right?
Right.
But so talk to me about this book and what was the impetus for it?
You know, it's when you write, as you know, there's things that come up to you like all of a sudden by momentary, like you pass somebody in the street and you think, oh my gosh, that person reminds me of somebody, and you jot it down in your iPhone or your Android or on a napkin or whatever. Then some things they take a longer time because there's things that you see in the news. So this book is, I would say, a combination of all that.
All that.
All that. Because even when the reality of it has 2 sections with one fist in the air and also holla, because those were 2 separate books that I was writing through many years. So sometimes it's because I saw something in the news that really bothered me about African American issues or the injustice that's going on or the perceived preference that people of color are receiving, which would really bother me. So I'd write something about it that sort of talked about the hypocrisy of that. And then from the LGBTQ issues, it's more like, well, you just see somebody and you wonder what if, or what did, or what didn't, and then that becomes another poem, which is almost like a story in and of itself. And again, some of these things, they may be, I'd say, years ago that I just found them again and decided, well, let me see what kind of collection can I put these in where one could at least sort of kind of think that there's a theme to it. And that's kind of where this went. And once you get all these poems together, or as some people call them poemoirs or poemoirs, because it's like they're giving sort of a reenactment of my life in sometimes lyrical words, you then have to come up with the title. So it's almost first it comes to all the different poems that you've written, and then you think, okay, I think these things I want to put in a book. Now what am I going to call this book? And so Rainbows, that's supposed to cover all the ones that have to do with LGBTQ issues, and Fists is really covering the fact that it's like black pride and black empowerment, things of that sort, and put them together because both of those stories are put together in this one book, Fists and Rainbows.
Wow.
Hello.
Yes, honey, you did that. Thank you. So, and you answered a lot of the other questions that I was going to ask you.
It was a great interview. Thanks for having me on.
So, okay. So this collection of poetry, it sounds like it came to you over a number of
Yeah.
years of experiences. So what made you decide, okay, now is the time for me to pull all of those experiences together into a collection of poetry and put it out to the world?
Wow, that's a great question. I think
I try.
You-
I really do.
It's like you had your own TV show. I don't know. Just a thought. I think part of it is that depending on what the external forces are that I am privy to, which is to say I'm a media person, which is I started off as an actor and writer. Those are the two things I always wanted to do, and then subsequently I became someone who's really big into history. And so with so much stuff going on now, pre-COVID, and especially during COVID, I felt like there's a lot of assumptions and presumptions and points of view, which I think are so one-sided and are so negative, not based on fact, about people's rights, quite frankly, that I thought I wish there was something that I could do in some small way to get the message out there that not everybody agrees with this, or to be upset because someone didn't say something or should say something. And so I think it really was within the last 4 years that I thought I've got to put something out there because there's too much being pushed, especially in the years of, let's say, number 45, where I thought there's a lot of
Whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anti a whole lot that's out there, and I thought there should be some point of view that's expressed that says, no, this is why people feel that they're underrepresented, or why they feel that there's hypocrisy which is keeping us down or ignoring us or leaving us diminished or erased, which of course there goes all the humor I used to say. Now it's getting all serious, but that's really why I sort of felt like I need to get this out now before, and it hasn't happened, unfortunately. Things change, and maybe things start getting really good, and maybe people get really like, yeah, I want to embrace everybody in the world despite their color or sexual orientation. However, we know that as of today, it seems like it's going more the opposite direction.
Right.
There's more push, as we know, certainly in Florida, certainly in Texas. There seems to be much more push against equality, equanimity, that I thought, again, if not now, when? I know that sounds like a cliche statement.
It's perfect.
But that's what I thought. And so I just keep pushing stuff to be out there that I could write, which in some way will give a different point of view than what is being, I'm going to say, peddled in the media in a major way, I feel. And it just quite frankly pissed me off.
Right, right.
You know,
and was it therapy?
It was therapy. It was a way of saying something about what is and what isn't. Because one of the poems I think I wrote in this book, it's called Privilege. And it's really and one of the things I say in it is that privilege is not a word I like, but I'll tell you what it's like. And one of the things I said, it's like not having to worry about one person being president when you've had 44 others to choose from. Because it's just that sense of how one person all of a sudden was equal to all the people who preceded him, which to some degree I think, well, that's pretty hypocritical, and or it's a compliment. Because if you're going to say that this one black president is equal to all the 43 who preceded him, well, all right, then you're saying he really was something. And different to try to say that, no, now you're equal. And those are the type of things that I really want to take to. Exactly. Because that was the pushback against what he did.
Right, right. So, okay, collection, years and years of experience bottled into just etchings, writings. You pulled it together. You said, now is the time. Who was your audience?
My audience were people who felt like I feel.
Okay.
You know, that's certainly my hope, is that people who feel that there's a little bit too much being spoken that is not being addressed at a counterpoint point of view, which is to say, if you feel that if you're watching a certain news network and all they're doing is diminishing you and your feelings and your concerns, then my book was basically saying, well, you're forgetting about this and or you're ignoring this. So I want my book to speak to those people to say that, well, I'm somebody who agrees with your thinking, who agrees with the fact that, yes, we have been ignored, yes, we have been underrepresented, and let's say it, and let's put it out there, and let's acknowledge it, and let me tell those people who probably would hate what these books are about, that I am saying it. and will probably not agree with it anyway, no matter how far it goes. This will be one of those books that's banned.
And it definitely pushes the conversation.
Yes.
And I think that was, I'm assuming that was also part of,
Yes.
I don't know if you intentionally did it. Like, how could anybody read these and not voice
Right.
some kind of opinion about the subject or the theme?
Right.
But I don't know if that was your intention, or did you just write because you were feeling it?
Right. Well, I think part of what one has to accept as a writer, or I say has to, you don't have to do anything, but one can accept or could accept depending on what type of writing you're going to do. I've always wanted to be a creative writer. However, writing a book or a novel or a play or a screenplay is very hard, very challenging, and takes a lot of time. The feelings that I've had are like, sort of like, boom, I really feel terrible about this. I want to write about it. Do I want to write a whole book? Well, yeah, I want to write a whole book, but that's going to take months and months and months and revisions.
Sometimes years.
Sometimes years. So what can I do now? I can write a poem. I can write something that gets that motion out right now.
It's that quick fix.
It's the quick fix. It's the quick hit, addressing something in an issue. It's almost like when you're in a conversation with somebody and the conversation is over and you think, I wish I had said this.
Yes.
And so this is my response to that. And the other thing is what takes it a while to be, I guess, put forth is that you have to be brave, courageous, and open enough to say, what am I writing? Do I want this to come out there? And for the longest time, I literally thought, I will only put this out if somebody else publishes it. For two reasons. One was that, would it be like, it's too vain if I do it myself. It's just like, no, I have to wait till somebody publishes it. The other thing was, and this is absolute truth.
Okay, I just got it. The vein thing. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Because if I have, do it myself. No, yeah. Speaking of Madonna, hung up. No, that's something. Was that if you're going? My poems are very biographical, or at least pseudo-biographical. If I'm going to write this, then I'm basically telling my story without having to tell my story. So I don't have to talk to somebody and say I'm this, that, and the other. It's, oh, well, I wrote this book, and then they can look at the book. And then to some degree, well, we never have to have that conversation in public. We can just have a drink and eat something because now you know what I think about this. Or now you know what I think about that because you've read this book.
Unless they have follow-up questions.
If they have follow-up questions, which is great and wonderful. But I tell you, most of the people that I've read, even close friends who probably do not know me as a writer, they only know me as an actor and or this history guy, most of them they've been very, I'd say, very complimentary and very supportive, and they hardly ever will bring up that, I didn't know that. I didn't know this. Mostly it's all about, I didn't know you felt that strongly about this, that, and the other.
Because, something else that you were, I think, right on the edge of saying about being a writer is the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
And someone with your background, someone with your gravitas, people look at you a certain way. And before they even talk to you, I mean, they look at your credentials and they're like, wow, he's got it going on, especially when it comes to African and African American culture and just all that you've brought to the forefront in that spectrum. And then you write this book, and then there is a voice that may be different from how they envisioned you before they talked to you. But then there's a level of responsibility that comes to that, because now it starts the conversation. And these are conversations that need to be had. It's very, what you've written here is very powerful on so many spectrums. And to talk to an intellectual like you about these things can be extremely stimulating. There's that word again.
Hello. Is this a late night show?
I mean, very, very stimulating. And, I would just want to sit down with my rosé and just